Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS. This is Ukraine War News Update, second part thereof for the 14th of May 2024. We're going to look at military aid and equipment, and we'll start with Estonia. So a lot of talk about this. There's a little bit of a caveat applied, as we'll see. The Estonian government is seriously discussing the potential deployment of Estonian troops in non-combat roles in Ukraine, said Madis Roll, the National Security Advisor to the President, in an interview with Breaking Defence published on May the 13th. So we could go and look a little bit in detail about that. Anton Gerashenko says exactly that the Estonia seriously think about this. The government of Estonia is discussing the possibility of sending troops into Western Ukraine, so it's not Eastern, Western Ukraine, to take over non-direct combat and rear roles from the Ukrainian forces to free them up to fight on the front, as stated by Tallinn's National Security Advisor to the President. Quote, discussions are ongoing, he said on May the 10th. We should be looking at all the possibilities. We shouldn't have our minds restricted as to what we can do. Exactly correct in my opinion, and this is very much in line with Emmanuel Macron, France's president, where he has said that, and other countries have also parroted that view. Madis Roll also emphasised that it's not unthinkable that NATO nations opposed to such a move would change their minds as time goes on. Now, the Estonian government has held no specific discussions on sending the country's troops to Ukraine, and this is reported in the Kiev Independent, according to Defence Minister Hanno Pevkur today. So they're obviously answering all the rumours sort of spilling out. Pevkur was reacting to the Breaking Defence Outlet's article that said, citing the country's presidential security advisor as a Madis Roll, that Tallinn is seriously discussing that. Quote, I think that they, Breaking Defence, may have interpreted Madis Roll's words too boldly. There is certainly no such initiative on the part of Estonia, and Estonia is certainly not going to do something on its own, Pevkur said. While that may be true, I think it's really important. I was talking about this on the Tochny stream the other night. I think it's important that this does happen. Right, so I'm an advocate of this, but I think it should be nations like Estonia, smaller nations, that start pushing the envelope. So if you started having a few trainers from Estonia and Lithuania, maybe a couple of, Danish trainers getting involved, then I don't think that would set off the escalation alarm bells in Russia. I mean, there'll be a lot of rhetoric, but I don't think they're reacting the same way as if the UK or France sent a bunch of trainers into Ukraine to do exactly the same thing. So I think it's really important. It's all about, the psychology of everything. If you're trying to convince someone of a position, or how to make friends and influence people, you've always got to think who your intended audience is and how you go about best, what words to use, how to do things to best get them on your side. Well, this is exactly the case. So, okay, eventually we want NATO troops to be in Ukraine. How do we go about starting that ball rolling? Let's not just bulldoze in with a bunch of American troops, right? That's never gonna be a good thing to do. But if we creep in with a few troops from some of the Baltic nations, and then slowly increase the numbers, and then there's some people from Norway there, there's a few Swedish trainers there, now we've got an air defense system we didn't tell you about that's protecting those trainers in the area, and then you get that mission creep that because it's like boiling a lobster in a pot. There's no one point where you go, no, it's all over, what are you doing, we're going to escalate this. Talking from a Russian point of view, it's just this slow incremental increase in Western elements inside Ukraine. Anyway, something to look out for. Now, USA will allocate a new aid package to Ukraine in the next few days, according to Jake Sullivan. We've got, at the moment, so he's a national security advisor. You've got Antony Blinken, who's over in Kiev at the moment, having a meeting with Zelensky and the other Ukrainians there. Now, Sullivan has added that US is still working with allies on getting more Patriots and other air defense systems to Ukraine, including exploring backfilling agreements. He asked about the scale of these efforts. 1 or 2? Dozens? He responded, dozens of Patriots is not the right order of magnitude. In other words, so you got orders of magnitude 1, 10, 100. So if you're in the tens, we're not in the tens. We're like, it's going to be 1 or 2 Patriots, essentially. It's not the right order of magnitude. of what we're trying to get in there. So it seems very unlikely, says Colby Badwa, that the US will be placing new orders for the Patriot batteries that Ukraine needs. And it's kind of frustrating because orders should have been placed for Patriot batteries a long time ago. It's absolutely what they need. In fact, Zelensky says Kharkiv urgently needs 2 Patriot air defense systems to protect its citizens from daily Russian attacks. So that's 2 whole batteries in Kharkiv Oblast, or really around the city. So Zelensky emphasized to US Secretary of State Antony Blinken during the visit to Kyiv. So there's lots of talk going on. I hope that Blinken really gets a wake-up call that they need bloody everything and they need it soon. The Russians are really going to try to spread the Ukrainians out along that northern border to really stretch them so that they can prod and probe all over the shop and hopefully, according to the Russians, make some breakthroughs here and there. But I do wonder really how much, certainly down on the eastern front lines and the southern front lines, how much they have to throw at those problems. How long can they keep going? I know they've amassed troops and equipment in the northern area to come down into Kharkiv, but that doesn't mean they necessarily are rammed with troops and equipment everywhere else on the front line. In fact, I was seeing one commander just saying that in the Zaporizhia area, the Russians are attacking and they're taking out 99% of the Russians. I mean, I know it's a big, bold claim and take it for what it is, with a massive pinch of salt. But there are areas where the Russians are struggling more to make gains, and there are areas, of course, where they're succeeding more. Right, US Deputy Secretary of State for Political Affairs Victoria Nuland said that Ukraine will receive new long-range weapons already this summer. Oh, I wonder what that would be. I don't know. It could be something on the F-16s. Who knows? Ukraine's needs are growing, but I think we will continue to help, including with new long-range weapons that you will see in operation at the front this summer. She had actually talked about this, or something. She'd made similar cryptic statements about 2 or 3 months ago. I think waiting, obviously, for the aid packages to get through for then the wheels to be oiled in the machine of the US military-industrial complex and the DoD and Pentagon and whatnot to get some key stuff over to Ukraine, and this could be that reaching some kind of or approaching fruition. Now, talking about Patriot air defense systems, Romania's prime minister, because there are these rumors over the last couple of days that Romania, there's lots of pressure on Romania. Romania might be able to provide a Patriot. Romania's prime minister says the defense minister is very reluctant to provide a Patriot air defense system to Ukraine, though the final decision will be made by the Supreme National Defense Council. So there is still a chance one could go from Romania. That would be absolutely fantastic. We need another 5 to 6 Patriot batteries for Ukraine, according to the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen. She called on other European countries to follow Germany's example and provide Ukraine with more Patriot air defense systems. It is better to have air defense systems in Ukraine than in NATO countries. Absolutely. I mean, who are you expecting to shoot missiles into Europe if it's not Russia? Because right now, obviously, that would just be insane to think that any other country would be in a position to do that. So Russia is the main threat. Just give everything to Ukraine to defend against Russia. German ambassador says that Ukraine is to receive another Iris-T air defense system from Germany in May, with more to follow over the next 2 years. Germany is also to hand over Geopol artillery, Skynet system, and announced urgent transfer of a third Patriot system in late June. That's all really good news. This is late, though, the Iris-T. That's not a new thing. That was scheduled already. Should have been in... Well, it says in May. I think it's the one that should have been delivered in April. It's been delayed till May. Let's hope they do get that. Good news. Okay. German aid to Ukraine says today the first GCS-200 remote-controlled demining machine was handed over by Hamburg's senator of the interior to the Ukrainian ambassador to Germany. Starting in June, it will be used to mine clearance in Ukraine. 3 more GCS-200s will be delivered to Ukraine by August. I think this is the bigger one of these sorts of demining vehicles. Further mine clearance equipment is to be delivered in the course of 2024, including 20 bomb protection suits and 10 manipulators for transporting and destroying IEDs. That's improvised explosive devices. So good news again from Germany there. Now, I just thought I'd show you this video of a SPAG, a Gepard SPAG, self-propelled anti-aircraft gun. Germany have provided a whole bunch of these, but sometimes it's worth just having a look at them. And maybe having a bit of a dance as well, if you're feeling up for it. As German aid to Ukraine said, you forget how big these things are until you see them drive around with someone sitting on the top of it. I mean, these are pretty sizable bits of kit, and they have done a really good job in helping Ukraine keep up really good statistics for interception of drones, where the Ukrainians are struggling to shoot down a lot of missiles for the that the Russians are sending into Ukraine. They are still succeeding, or they are having improved success with intercepting drones. Okay, now on to Spain. Getty says that Spain will transfer 10 Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine, according to El País. It's noted that the new aid package will be prepared by June the 30th. It will also include, and I don't know if this is new stuff or stuff that they were getting ready. I was under the impression that they were still refurbishing some Leopard tanks that were due to go to Ukraine. This could be a new package. I just don't know. It's noted that the new aid package will be prepared by June the 30th. It will also include large caliber artillery ammunition, light and heavy machine guns, protected wheeled and armoured infantry vehicles, anti-tank weapons and field artillery shells, anti-tank, anti-aircraft surveillance systems and weapon stations for protection against drones. Now, I think Spain has just put an order in with Rheinmetall for some more artillery ammunition. I presume that's for themselves to backfill what they're giving to Ukraine. I would have thought, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay, French aid to Ukraine have said we now have the prospect of more than 2 million shells being produced on European territory, particularly the large 155mm calibers, in order to be able to deliver them more quickly to Ukraine, according to Thierry Breton, who is to do with finance in the EU. This is really good stuff. The EU has promised a lot, but of course it's like turning a tanker. You have to get unanimous voting, then you have to get money, and then you organize this, and you can't just suddenly build more artillery shells. You need to get the capital in place, the machines. You need to be, if it's from private consortiums, you need to make sure that, or concerns, you need to make sure that those contracts are in place, that there's going to be a sustained demand for these pieces of weaponry, because otherwise it's not worth investing in new manufacturing facilities. And so all of these things need to happen for the eventual outcome of Ukraine getting a whole load more ammunition, but it seems to be on the way. Finland, and I mentioned this the other week, but I think this is looking, I think they were talking about it, now it looks like it's going to happen. Finland is planning on re-establishing TNT production in the country. TNT is in short supply globally due to the war in Ukraine. Though less safe than IMX 101 and 104, it has the same explosive properties. Without these explosives, artillery shells and mortar rounds cannot be filled. Currently, the only active TNT plant in Europe is Nitrochem in Poland. Ukraine's Zarya plant is in Rubizhne, currently occupied by the Russians. Hellenic Defence Systems in Greece already has plans in motion to re-establish TNT production in their Lavrio plant. Currently, the US produces explosive filler IMX, RDX and HMX. Only at Holston Army Ammunition Plant in Tennessee. They plan on re-establishing TNT production at Radford Army Ammunition Plant in Virginia. So there you go. And in Switzerland, some politicians are calling to help Ukraine return men of conscription age. Switzerland aren't in the EU, and they have an interesting relationship with the EU, but I don't know what this means with regard to sending people back and refugee status, etc., etc. Anyway, Council of the FDP called for the readmission agreement with Ukraine to return 11,000 men currently living in Switzerland to their homeland. And then what does a cabinet reshuffle in Russia mean? So we've learnt about how Patrushev has been replaced by Shoigu. Patrushev's moving to another kind of advisory position. Then you got Belousov coming in for Shoigu's position. He's a man of the economy. He's an economics man. So what does that mean in terms of relationship with China? Okay, very long thread here that's not really worth me going in until the end, just a little bit at the end. So finally, Russia has a new defense minister, Andrei Belousov, 65. He was Manturov's predecessor as first deputy prime minister, and since 2020 was Ding Zhuojiang and Han Zheng's before counterpart. He received in-depth briefings on China by outside experts, not frequent among Putin's team. There is this idea that actually Belousov is a bit of a technocrat being someone who's an expert. Quite often we put people in cabinet positions who are not experts. In fact, he is not a technocrat with regard to being the Minister of Defense, right? So he has no military training. He's not an expert in those matters, and probably no military strategic understanding in terms of how to put together a campaign, but then I don't think that's really going to be his job, and I'm slightly worried, as in I think this is a good move from Russia's point of view, because the main consideration at the moment for Russia is procurement of equipment, and to get a guy who's got economic nous in is a good move, and you leave the arranging the warfare to other people within the MOD and the commander-in-chief, Gerasimov, that is, at the moment. I don't think he's going to last long at all. I mean, that's a prediction from me, but I'd be amazed if he lasts more than a couple of 2 or 3 weeks. So I personally don't think he's very well. So it's horses for courses, right? They need procured quality equipment. They need innovation, and they need it pretty quickly. Like all this stuff, and this appears to be the right man for the job. He is an expert in those areas and can bring that expertise to running the Ministry of Defense. Anyway, as Financial Times' Max Seddon and a few others point out, Borisov's job will be to improve the management of the Ministry of Defense and make the shift to a more militarized economy, including working with Rostec, so that's the national defense manufacturer, working with them more sustainable and efficient. China will be crucial in this effort, and expertise and rapport with China and Chinese interlocutors are key for the Russian government in navigating these waters. Some details in a foreign affairs piece. Bad news for Ukraine and Kiev's allies. Putin has tasked his A-team with it. And that's the point. And that's what I was saying yesterday and today. I think this is a net benefit for Russia, and I think this will make it more challenging for Ukraine. And especially if he has a good working relationship with his Chinese counterpart, which is a claim here. Anyway, that's enough from me. Hopefully that was informative, useful, and you will come back for some more at some point. That'd be nice. Really appreciate your support. Take care, everybody, and speak to you soon.